Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, US-Iran tensions continue to escalate as Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi has issued a stern warning, saying Iran has its finger on the trigger and is ready to powerfully respond. And this is to any attacks from the United States. When I get you all the details from West Asia as the region remains on the boil. Stay tuned.
Also coming up on World DNA, voices of dissent erupted in the US Senate as State Secretary Marco Rubio answered tough questions from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on US policy towards Venezuela. And it didn't end there. Issues related to Iran and China were also raised. We'll get you the latest on that. Let's start with the headlines first. This is World DNA.
Iran wants its forces have their finger on the trigger to respond forcibly to any strikes after President Donald Trump says time is running out to avoid war. The Iranian foreign minister also signals openness to new nuclear deals.
Plane carrying 15 people, including a Colombian lawmaker, crashes near Venezuelan border, killing all aboard. The flight departing from Colombian border city of Cucuta lost contact with air traffic control before landing.
Prime Minister Modi meets CEOs of leading global and Indian energy companies at his residence as part of India Energy Week 2026, highlighting major opportunities including $100 billion in exploration and production.
Two federal immigration agents involved in the fatal Minneapolis shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretty are placed on leave as the incident sparks protests and President Trump hints at de-escalating tensions.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington hopes to cooperate with Venezuela and reopen its embassy after Nicolas Maduro's ousting, but warns that force remains an option if the interim leadership persists.
UK and China to sign a cooperation deal today to target migrant smuggling supply chains during Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to Beijing, as he aims to promote pragmatic ties while addressing sensitive issues of irregular migration.
Ukraine urges European Union to take physical action against Russia's shadow fleet, citing US seizures of Venezuela-linked oil tankers as example. Says Western parts in Russian weapons show sanctions are being evaded.
Iraq's Prime Minister candidate Nouri al-Maliki condemns US interference after President Trump threatens to cut all support if he assumes office. Two-time former Prime Minister Maliki rejects foreign involvement in Iraq's internal affairs.
In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy rate unchanged.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has hit pause on interest rate cuts, keeping rates steady as inflation remains above target and the job market stabilizes. Policymakers signal a cautious stance ahead, delaying further rate easing for now.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that Iran has its fingers on the trigger and is ready to powerfully respond to any attack coming in from the US.
And the threat has come after US President Donald Trump declared that Iran must abandon its nuclear program or face a far worse attack than the strike on its uranium enrichment facilities in June last year. He declared time was running out and urged Iran to make a deal.
Araghchi took to social media to issue a response. He did not rule out a new deal on Tehran's nuclear program, and also said that Iran has always welcomed a mutually beneficial, fair and equitable nuclear deal, one on equal footing and free from coercion, free from threats and intimidation.
Right, and he advocated Iran's rights to peaceful nuclear technology and guaranteed there would be no nuclear weapons. However, Arakchi added that Iran's armed forces were prepared with their fingers on the trigger to immediately and powerfully respond to any aggression.
In a separate post, Ali Shamkhani, a senior advisor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said that military action from the US would be considered the start of war and promised a response that would be immediate, all-out and unprecedented.
The escalation comes in the backdrop of Trump announcing the arrival of what he called a massive armada of warships towards the coast of Iran. It is led by USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, which will carry out days of military exercise in the region. China has warned against any military adventurism in West Asia, and its ambassador to the UN, Fu Kong, has told the Security Council that such actions could push the region into unpredictability.
Trump's top diplomat, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said that Iranian leadership was at its weakest point ever.
That regime is probably weaker than it has ever been. And the core problem they face, unlike the protests you saw in the past on some other topics, is that they don't have a way to address the core complaints of the protesters, which is that their economy is in collapse. And the reason why there's economies in collapse is because they spend all their money and all their resources building weapons and sponsoring terrorist groups around the world.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz predicted the Islamic Republic days are numbered. And separately, Germany's ally France joined Berlin in backing a push for the European Union to declare Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, a terrorist organization. It is already designated as a terror group by Canada and the US, but not yet by the EU or UK. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio faced tough questioning from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on U.S. policy towards Venezuela.
And it didn't end there. He was also questioned on issues related to Iran and China. As soon as Rubio started speaking in the Senate hearing, a voice of dissent rose from the back. A person carrying a poster that read "Hands off Venezuela." He stood up in protest.
After a brief interruption, U.S. Secretary of State started speaking on Venezuela. He said Maduro was given multiple opportunities to surrender and leave Venezuela, but he refused to do so.
He's just simply not a guy you can make a deal with. He had no intent of keeping it. What he wanted to do was tap us along and buy 3 years of time until he could deal with a new administration that he thought may be more favorable, etc.
He toned down on the possibility of fresh military action on Venezuela, but without denying the possibility of it.
Look, the president never rules out his options as commander-in-chief to protect the national interest of the United States. I can tell you right now with full certainty, we are not postured to, nor do we intend or expect to have to take any military action in Venezuela at any time. The only military presence you'll see in Venezuela is our Marine Guards at an embassy. Okay, that is our goal.
Well, Rubio also spoke on the removal of top Chinese general on the charges of corruption. Remember, reports also said that Xi's close aide General Zhang Yuxia leaked Beijing's nuclear secrets to the United States.
This is, I think, part of a pattern we've seen over the last few years, which is a purge of leaders in their military. They're spending a lot of money on their military, and obviously some of these guys are stealing that money, and they're trying to address that. So it's an issue internally in their system.
U.S. Secretary of State also faced questions on Trump administration's NATO policy. Marco responded saying there is no NATO without United States.
This morning when I was on a panel, I want to thank you again for what you did since coming in.
Our partners understand the importance of the U.S. presence in NATO. Without the U.S., there is no NATO. And we understand that in order for NATO to be stronger, our partners need to be stronger.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio expanded on U.S. policy toward Venezuela at a Senate hearing linking it to broader national security priorities for the United States. He defended the Trump administration's oil revenue plan, where sanctioned Venezuelan oil sales are overseen by the U.S. Treasury and used to fund essential services as part of a strategy to stabilize the country during this period of transition. He portrayed Venezuela under Maduro as a base for U.S. adversaries, including Iran and Russia, saying removing Maduro was necessary. He also talked about Iran, describing the regime probably weaker than it has ever been amid economic pressure and the recent protests, underscoring U.S. scrutiny of Tehran's actions as the war of words between Tehran and Washington escalates and as U.S. military buildup in the region continues to make headlines. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Well, the US president's threat to acquire Greenland has strained the entire transatlantic alliance.
Well, US President may have promised to not use military force to take over the Arctic territory, but the standoff has left deep scars on European Union. The bloc is now facing a fundamental question, which is, can US be trusted with the triad of security, trade and energy?
European Union's top diplomat has expressed concerns over reliability of US. Kaja Kallas believes that changing tides in EU-US relationship, these tides are structural and not temporary. She also called on European nations to stop outsourcing their security and defense.
But Europe needs to adapt to new realities. Europe is no longer Washington's primary center of gravity. The shift has been ongoing for a while. It is structural, not temporary. It means that Europe must step up. No great power in history has ever outsourced its survival and survived.
Well, Kallas is not alone in believing this. French President Emmanuel Macron has also echoed the same sentiment. Macron said that the recent standoff on Greenland is a strategic wake-up call for all of Europe. Emmanuel Macron gave this remark as he welcomed Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen at Élysée Palace.
France will remain committed to the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland is not for sale, nor is it to be taken. Greenlanders will decide their future. France will continue to stand united with the Kingdom of Denmark. We are by your side. We were yesterday, we are today, and will be tomorrow. Thank you.
The French president also laid out three fundamental principles. First, asserting European sovereignty. Second, contribution to Arctic security. And third, the fight against foreign interference and disinformation.
And now the news, two federal agents involved in the fatal shooting of a US citizen in Minneapolis have been placed on leave.
The immigration raids in the city, they've continued, even as Trump administration is trying to quell the backlash from the shootings. Alex Pretty, who was shot and killed most recently on Saturday in an incident which has sparked protests across the city. The Department of Homeland Security has revealed that the two agents who allegedly shot him are on administrative leave now since the incident. The DHS emphasized that it is standard protocol in such shootings.
While facing backlash over Pretty's shooting, President Donald Trump has vowed to de-escalate. But his immigration enforcement crackdown in the state showed no signs of slowing down.
Immigration enforcement operations and confrontation with activists continued in Minneapolis and St. Paul. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced new arrests for rioters who she claimed were assaulting federal law enforcement on the ground. A video showed people being pepper sprayed and at least one person being detained.
And the agents also had an exchange with journalists who were covering the incidents. When the journalists got out of their car, agents pushed one of them and threatened them with arrest and told them to get back in their car despite their identifying themselves as media.
We were eventually pushed back into our vehicle and told that if we left, we'd be arrested. We could kind of see what was happening up the block in front of us. At least one person was detained. Another person was pepper sprayed. and a vehicle was left with a broken window. At least one vehicle was left parked with a broken window.
Protests are also taking place in Texas, where a Minnesota man and his young son are being held by immigration officials. Demonstrators rallied, banging drums, chanting and holding signs outside the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley. As protesters moved closer to the facility, Texas state police officers detained many of them, and some of the officers then deployed pepper balls, dispersing the crowd.
Meanwhile, calls are growing against U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and a growing number of voices, both Democrats and Republicans, have raised concerns about Noem's leadership.
She clearly doesn't know how to manage. She's never managed a large organization, and she's failing at every possible measure of the job.
She needs to be held accountable for her actions. This is why I introduced 3 articles of impeachment against Secretary Noem.
President Trump gave no indication her job is in jeopardy, and Noem seemed to have his backing, at least for now. That's what it seems.
I think she's doing a very good job.
Now, after facing protests over his immigration crackdown drive, US President Trump is back in campaign mode, addressing his first election rally of 2026 in Iowa.
And this was where he warned of very bad things if Republicans lose the U.S. midterm polls. At least 435 seats in the House of Representatives, as well as 35 Senate seats, are up for grabs in the midterm scheduled for November this year. Trump cautioned that Democrats will roll back many tax cuts if they seize control of the House.
If we lose the midterms, you'll lose so many of the things that we're talking about, so many of the assets that we're talking about, so many of the tax cuts that we're talking about, and it would lead to very bad things. We got to win the midterms. I mean, I'm here because I love Iowa, but I'm here because we're starting the campaign to win the midterms. We got to win the midterms.
While refraining from directly touching upon ICE protests, Trump claimed that the US border is totally closed. He also boasted about his achievements on the economic front, stressing that inflation has been defeated.
The event was not controversy-free as protesters disrupted his speech on multiple occasions. The US president hit back, calling them paid insurrectionists, and one protester was finally removed from the venue.
You do know they're paid agitators, right? They're paid. They get paid. You know, do you ever see their signs? You know, we used to have protests and you'd have guys making a sign in a basement. These are all paid agitators. That's all they are. They get paid to go and they don't even know what, when they interview them, why are you here? I don't know. They have no idea. They're paid insurrectionists, really, in some cases. They're sickos.
Incidentally, this is not the first time Trump has expressed fear about the upcoming US elections, the midterms later this year, citing historical trends that have seen the party in power lose seats in the second year of a presidency. Earlier this year, the US president told House Republicans at their annual retreat that he will get impeached if he doesn't win the midterms.
Well, subsequently, he told Reuters about his desire to cancel the polls altogether. While the White House later clarified that Trump was joking, this has raised concerns about his future plans. For instance, during his Iowa speech, he again hinted at the possibility of running for a third term, which is barred under the U.S. Constitution. And Beijing has issued a warning to Canberra, saying that it will act if Australia reclaims Darwin Port from its Chinese lessee.
Chinese officials say they could take action if Australia tries to seize the port. Chinese Ambassador Xiao Qian said that Beijing has the obligation to take measures to protect Chinese firms if the port was seized. He added that the port is a matter of legitimate rights and should be respected. The ambassador also questioned Australia's motives. Xiao said the issue should be properly managed to show that Australia welcomes Chinese investment. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman added that the lease was obtained through market means and must be respected.
Now, the port was leased in 2015 to the Chinese Land Bridge Group for 99 years. The issue has resurfaced after last year's federal election. And during his campaign, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his Labour Party promised to return the port to Australian ownership. On Wednesday, Albanese reiterated that the government is committed to reclaiming the strategic port.
Darwin is Australia's closest major port to Southeast Asia. It is used for joint military exercises with the US and other allies. There are also talks to host nuclear-powered ships under the AUKUS Pact. US Marines have rotated through Darwin every year since the early 2010s. Last year, a US submarine surfaced just meters from the port.
Well, relations between Canberra and Beijing have improved since Albanese took office in 2022. But the port remains a sensitive issue. China was Australia's top trading partner in 2024. Beijing recently imposed higher tariffs on beef, disappointing Australian producers.
North Korea is setting the tempo for its next nuclear move. The country fired 2 large-caliber ballistic missiles towards the East Sea.
And leader Kim Jong-un says an upcoming ruling party Congress will define the country's nuclear future. Well, 4 rockets were launched off the North Korean territory, slamming into waters roughly 350 kilometers away. Kim described the drill as an upgrade to North Korea's strategic deterrent. Pyongyang has repeatedly released images suggesting progress on a nuclear-powered submarine as well.
The test was not a one-off. It marked North Korea's second missile launch of 2026. Since December, Pyongyang has staged a steady display of weapons tests spanning hypersonic missiles, long-range cruise missiles and upgraded air defense systems. Experts say that the recent multiple rocket launcher blurs the boundary between artillery and ballistic missiles. The upgraded missile combines guided flight with its own propulsion, a design that complicates interception and broadens strike options.
As the North Korean leader watched the fire live test, anxiety seeped in the East Asian waters. He warned that the launch would inflict, quote-unquote, excruciating mental agony for adversaries.
Seoul, Washington and Tokyo, they've moved quickly into 3-way phone consultations, reiterating that the launch violated multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions. South Korea convened an emergency security meeting urging Pyongyang to halt further provocations.
Now the move has landed in a calculated time. North Korea's Workers' Party Congress is expected in the upcoming weeks. It will unveil fresh 5-year strategic plans for the country's defense and economy. And for the world, a clear nuclear signal lies ahead when Kim takes the Congress stage and sets the pace and ambition for North Korea's nuclear posture for the years to come. And the Doomsday Clock is now at 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest it has ever been to a theoretical annihilation.
So what is this Doomsday Clock and why are scientists calling AI equal to nuclear catastrophe? This next story attempts to give an answer to that. Take a look.
Explosions rip through the night sky. Missiles streak. Drone swarms wreak havoc. From Ukraine to West Asia, the world is a dangerous place. The Cold War rivalries are entering a newer, unpredictable phase. Hard-won treaties crumble. Russia and US move away from nuclear treaty. China stockpiles nuclear missiles at breakneck speed. Leaders ditch diplomacy for dominance. In wake of the increasingly precarious world, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists just moved the Doomsday Clock to 85 seconds to midnight, closer than ever.
Last year, we warned that the world was perilously close to catastrophe and that countries needed to change course towards international cooperation and action on the most critical existential risks. Unfortunately, the opposite has happened. Rather than heed this warning, major countries became even more aggressive, adversarial, and nationalistic.
At the heart of the danger lies a lethal mix. Nuclear weapons modernized, multiplied and placed on hair-trigger alert, and artificial intelligence unleashed without global rules.
We are living through an information Armageddon. That's brought about by the technology that rules our lives, from social media to generative AI. None of that tech is anchored in facts. Your chatbot is nothing but a probabilistic machine.
It's not just the bombs. The misuse of biotechnology and the relentless acceleration of climate collapse are acting as force multipliers for chaos. Hard-won global understandings have collapsed like a house of cards. Experts warn that the winner-takes-all mentality is undermining the very cooperation needed to prevent a planetary flashpoint. From the front lines of Ukraine to the tensions in the South China Sea, the fuse is burning short. The world is spending billions on its own destruction, while the safeguards that kept the Cold War from turning hot are being ripped up and discarded. The clock is ticking. The question isn't if the bell tolls, but if anyone will be left to hear it. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
More reports coming up on the other side. The last rites of Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar will be held today with full state honours, scheduled to start at 11 a.m. local time. Pawar and 4 others they did not survive a plane crash which took place earlier yesterday morning. We'll bring you all the details on the procession today.
Also coming up, global security of the Taliban in Afghanistan. The global scrutiny is back, and this is as its new criminal procedure code for courts has sparked a massive controversy. All this and more coming up on the other side of World DNA. Stay tuned. You're watching WION World is One.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well. From the Kevin
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Diksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with the headlines.
Last rites of Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar to be held with the full state honours at Baramati today. Prime Minister Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Maharashtra Chief Minister Fadnavis and leaders from across party lines will attend.
At least 3 killed and 1 injured as Russian drones strike Ukraine's Zaporizhia, destroying homes and causing fires. Attacks come amid ongoing negotiations to end the conflict, with next talks scheduled for Sunday.
Iran warns its forces have their fingers on the trigger to respond forcibly to any strikes after President Donald Trump says that time is running out to avoid one. The Iranian foreign minister also signals openness to new nuclear deal.
China warns it will defend its company's interests if Australia forcibly reclaims control of Darwin Port after Prime Minister Albanese promised to buy it back from China's Landbridge Group for economic and security reasons.
Venezuela's military and police pledge loyalty to interim President Delcy Rodriguez, with Defense Minister Padrino saying forces swear absolute loyalty and Interior Minister Cabello doing the same for police.
Two federal immigration agents involved in the fatal Minneapolis shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretty are placed on leave as the incident sparks protests and President Trump hints at de-escalating tensions.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio expects good outcome in Greenland talks following Trump's decision not to use force to seize island from Denmark, with technical meetings planned between U.S., Greenland and Denmark.
Gold prices surge to a fresh record, hitting an intraday high of nearly $5,600. The rally pushes bullion past $5,500 for the first time, fueled by strong safe haven demand.
Manchester City clinched Champions League last 16 spot with win over Galatasaray. Erling Haaland and Ryan Cherky struck before half-time to secure the victory. Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister and Nationalist Congress Party Chief Ajit Pawar died in a plane crash in Baramati on Wednesday.
His funeral will take place today. The mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be carried in a decorated rath as the funeral procession moves through the city, allowing people to pay their last respects ahead of the funeral at Vidya Pratishthan ground at 11 a.m. IST. The last rites will be performed with full state honours. Maharashtra has declared the state holiday and 3 days of mourning.
Outside the hospital where Pawar's mortal remains were kept before being taken to his residence, a crowd of party workers and supporters gathered hours ahead of the procession.
The Learjet 45 business aircraft that Ajit Pawar was on, it crashed while attempting to land at Baramati airfield, killing Pawar and 4 others who were on board. There were no survivors. According to the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, the pilots of the aircraft that crashed, the pilot had trouble spotting the runway while attempting to land.
The aviation regulator said that the pilots could not spot the runway during their first approach to land. They did a go-around and came for a second attempt at landing. It cleared no mayday call was given by the crew.
Ajit Pawar's uncle and NCP SP chief Sharad Pawar has ruled out any conspiracy in the crash, saying it was purely an accident.
This is a huge loss for Maharashtra. Maharashtra has lost a dynamic and decisive leader. Some people are saying there is some politics behind this. But it was an accident, and there is no politics involved. Politics should not be brought into this.
And our principal correspondent Disha Yadav is joining us live from Baramati Hospital in Maharashtra. Disha, what's the day looking like today? Let's hear it from you first.
Well, absolutely, Shivan. Good morning. Just a short while ago, we've seen the mortal remains of Ajit Pawar being taken from the hospital, and it is currently en route to his residence in Ketwadi, which is about 10 kilometers away, about half an hour distance, where for 1 hour at least the family members, relatives can be around his mortal remains and can pay last rites and last respect and tribute to him. Because remember, ever since the incident has taken place, that was about 24 hours ago, his mortal remains were half of the time in the hospital and then later in an open ground where people got an opportunity to pay a tribute to him. And today morning, just about 15 minutes ago, we've seen his mortal remains being taken to his residence, because remember, this was his home turf. This is where he was born and brought up, and that is why it is very close to everybody's heart. And Shivan, just for the context, I want to show you, the state has declared a 3-day mourning, but it certainly looks like here the people have not really slept at all in the last 24 hours. You can see the streets are very much empty at this point. So this is a wave of silence here that we are talking about after they lost their beloved Dada, is what people really call as. Usually Baramati is a city which wakes up quite early. At about this time you see a quite busy day over here. The shops are open, there are series of cars moving around, but right now you can see a wave of silence, and this is a way of tribute that people are really paying to the beloved Dada, is what they call associate him with. So majority of the people, you will find them in two places right now. Most of them are en route his residence here, which is 10 kilometers away. And another crowd is at the funeral site, which is expected, where the preparations are already underway. At about 9 a.m., what we are being told, that an Antim Yatra, a rally, will start from his residence. It will travel through key areas of the city, and then it will reach the funeral site at about 10:30 a.m. And from 11 a.m. onwards, his funeral procession will also take place. And leaders like Amit Shah, Narendra Modi, and other key political leaders are also expected to be present at that time, is what we are being told.
Disha, thanks so much for rounding that up for us. It's in a matter of hours from now that the procession will be starting, and of course the final rites will be executed. That was Disha Yadav getting us all the latest from Baramati Hospital, where the procession is yet to start for Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, who tragically died in a plane crash yesterday. And the fourth edition of the India Energy Week is currently underway in Goa. Energy leaders, policymakers and innovators from across the globe are addressing challenges faced by the energy sector.
Well, they are calling for solutions for a sustainable future. In 2023, India launched Global Biofuel Alliance on the sidelines of the G20 summit it hosted. The bloc was launched with Brazil and the US to further advance global adoption of biofuel as a sustainable measure. 19 countries and 12 international bodies are part of the multilateral alliance. WION's correspondent Dharamjot Kaur spoke to the top officials of the Global Biofuel Alliance, and this is what they had to say. Listen in.
The GBA, or the Global Biofuel Alliance, is not just seen as an environmental club, but as a critical tool in providing geopolitical stabilization in so many areas that we see. It's like if you take at, we call it the global energy trilemma, not even dilemma, trilemma. We are looking at a threshold or an intersection where we have come at the right end, come in at the right time, where we're able to provide a critical solution as a tool for the trilemma. When we talk about trilemma, we're talking about sustainability to the planet. We're talking about consistency in your supply chains. And we're also talking about equity, which is the affordability of all of these. So GBA plays a very strong role in all these three areas, not just among our member countries, but also the industry. Energy independence and, of course, multilateralism, in my opinion, they go hand in hand. So if you are responsible enough to be self-dependent, then you become a very responsible partner in multilateralism. Multilateralism is about partnerships. So if you're able to the more independent you are, the more energy sovereignty you're able to govern, then you're able to provide that kind of support to multilateralism. And I see that India and certain other countries around the world that you see are able to successfully do this both and bring this mix together. So the more energy independent I am, I've got the model to showcase to, for instance, a small island state, or as a developing nation giant that India is, by being able to provide this kind of modeling, that by becoming more self-reliant, I'm able to then showcase this model to other developing nations or underdeveloped nations or to the small island states.
It's not possible to 100% replace the fossil energies because over 100 years of dependence and the flexibility of logistics, these are very important for whatever way you can say, whatever blame you would do this fossil, but you just can't do activities without fossil energy. But whatever best possible, like today India is doing 20% blending in ethanol, in petrol, and which was only 1%, even less than 1% in 13 years back, in 2012 when I took over ethanol journey for the country as a coordinator, and Ministry of Petroleum, the interactions with that, and the Prime Minister's office. So this has become a journey which in 12 to 13 years time from almost 1% came to 20%. So this is going to happen for the biogas also. But it started lying today, it's almost 1% we have reached. But this will be faster. Because, by the time the technologies, then, blockchain technologies, then artificial intelligence, all those things are coming in that logistics. And the major advantage of biofuel, which we are driving from Global Biofuel Alliance, is the logistics is already available. Logistics mode of transportation is already available. The pipeline is available, coastal tankers are available, engines are not able to replace. We don't need to buy some extra, fittings. So all those things are already available. It is only a replacement of molecule to molecule, and that's fantastic. And it saves lots of infrastructure cost.
And global scrutiny of the Taliban in Afghanistan is back.
As its new criminal procedure code for courts has sparked a massive controversy now. Approved by Taliban Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada, this code comprising 10 chapters and 119 articles has been accessed by Ravadri, a human rights organization. Now, let's look at how this code stands apart from modern criminal laws in force across the world. To begin with, Muslims have been defined only as those following Hanafi school of thought, which falls within Sunni Islam. On the other hand, Shias and non-Muslims like Sikhs and Hindus, they have been categorized as heretics. The code allows the killing of anyone preaching beliefs contrary to Islam in public interest. Moreover, people can get a jail term of up to 2 years for mockery and ridicule of Islamic rulings.
Meanwhile, the type of punishment in Afghanistan will now be decided as per the perpetrator's social standing. While clerics will get away with mere advice if they commit a crime, the elite shall be summoned by a court. However, if the same crime is committed by the middle class, they will be imprisoned. Additionally, those from the lower class of society shall also be sentenced to corporal punishment. Even though slavery is prohibited in international law, the Taliban has legitimized it by citing it in several sections of the criminal code. Extensive use of flogging as punishment has also been allowed.
Since taking over Afghanistan in August 2021, Taliban has faced flack for its human rights record, exclusion of women from public life by restricting their rights to education and work, and it has become a major point of criticism. Recently, it issued new orders whereby barbers and who shave men's beards in Afghanistan can be jailed up to 12 months. The Federal Reserve has hit a pause on interest rates. Again, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says inflation is still too high to declare victory.
And this is even as the US economy continues to show surprising strength heading into 2026. The decision keeps borrowing costs at their current level after 3 rate cuts late last year and comes as divisions inside the Fed deepen. Tariffs push up prices and questions swirl about the central bank's independence under President Donald Trump's second term.
The Fed left its benchmark interest rate unchanged on Wednesday, holding borrowing costs steady at 3.5%. after cutting rates by 75 basis points across its final 3 meetings of 2025.
We see the current stance of monetary policy as appropriate to promote progress toward both our maximum employment and 2% inflation goals.
The Fed says the US economy is entering 2026 on solid footing, with steady growth and signs of the labor market, which may be stabilizing. Unemployment remains relatively low, job gains have slowed, and inflation, while cooling, is still above the Fed's 2% target.
The incoming data since the last meeting, clear improvement in the outlook for growth. The data have come in, and sentiment, the beige book, everything comes in suggesting that this year starts off on a solid footing for growth. Inflation performed about as expected, and as I mentioned, some of the labor market data came in suggesting, we're evidence of stabilization. So it's overall a stronger forecast, really.
Powell says consumer spending continues to surprise even as surveys show Americans feeling pessimistic about the economy. One major boost, investment in artificial intelligence data centers, which the Fed says is helping support growth. On inflation, Powell pointed to tariffs as a key reason prices for goods remain elevated. He called that better news than inflation driven by excess demand, because tariffs are expected to cause a one-time price increase, not sustained inflation. Excluding tariff effects, core PCE inflation is running just slightly above 2%.
Services inflation, which has been stickier, is now showing signs of ongoing disinflation. Another encouraging signal for the Fed, and Powell says if inflation continues to cool and the labor market weakens, rate cuts could still be back on the table later this year.
But inside the Fed, disagreement remains. At the December meeting, 3 of the 12 voting members dissented. 1 wanted a deeper cut, 2 wanted no cut at all, and those divisions have carried into 2026 as well. Investors now expect rates to remain unchanged until at least June, when the Fed is scheduled to meet under the new leadership.
Well, Powell also issued a warning on the federal budget deficit, calling its current path unsustainable, even though the overall debt level remains manageable for now.
Powell defended the independence of the Federal Reserve, saying political control over monetary policy would undermine public interest. He confirmed attending Supreme Court arguments tied to President Trump's effort to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook, calling it one of the most important cases in the Fed's 113-year history.
I would say that that case is perhaps the most important legal case in the Fed's 113-year history. And as I thought about it, I thought it might be hard to explain why I didn't attend. So it's precedented, and I thought it was an appropriate thing, and I did it.
And Google is expanding its push into AI-powered learning by adding full-length practice tests in Gemini.
And this is for the Joint Entrance Exam, or JEE, India's nationwide engineering exam used to shortlist candidates for the country's top technical institutes and taken by millions of students each year.
Now, according to Google, students preparing for JEE can take full-length mock exams for the JEE within Gemini, which will offer questions based on vetted content from Indian education firms PhysicsWallah and Careers 360. Once students complete a mock test in Gemini, the chatbot will provide immediate feedback, highlighting areas of strength and where further study is needed. It can also explain correct answers and help students generate a customized study plan based on their performance. The company said, in addition to Gemini, Google said that the main preparation tools will roll out to AI mode in search, including the Canvas tool, which allows students to build study guides and interactive quizzes by attaching their class notes. Google claims Indian students are using Gemini to study subjects ranging from advanced physics to broader STEM topics, as well as Notebook for turning study materials into quizzes, flashcards, and audio or video summaries.
Now, Google has said that it is also expanding its focus on Indian educators and plans to work with government agencies on a nationwide program to help teachers and support staff use AI for administrative work and lesson design. Google is also partnering with the Ministry of Skill Development and Chaudhry Charan Singh University on a pilot project to create an AI-enabled state university. The program aims to use AI in teaching, student support, and administrative tasks. All right, now shifting our focus to cricket, where Tim Seifert and skipper Mitchell Santner have led New Zealand to a 50-run consolation win over India in the 4th T20 International.
Well, India won the toss. They opted to field first. New Zealand got off to a fast start as Seifert attacked Arshdeep Singh with 3 fours in the first over. Conway also joined in and the team reached 100 runs in just 8.1 overs. Seifert scored his 50 off 25 balls. Kuldeep Yadav then slowed things down by dismissing Conway. Bumrah removed Rachin Ravindra for 2 in the next over and Arshdeep soon dismissed Seifert. Kuldeep later got Glenn Phillips out and New Zealand briefly struggled. Daryl Mitchell then helped recover the innings, scoring an unbeaten 39 off 18 balls. New Zealand posted 215 for 7 in their 20 overs.
Now, India's chase started badly as opener Abhishek Sharma was out on the first ball. Captain Surya Kumar Yadav followed in the next over, caught and bowled by Jacob Duffy for 8. Mitchell Santner then dismissed Sanju Samson and Hardik Pandya, leaving India struggling for 63 for 4. Shivam Dube fought back with a quick 65 of 23 balls, hitting 7 sixes and 3 fours, and reached his 50 in just 15 balls. However, Dube was run out after an unlucky deflection and India continued to lose wickets. The team was bowled out in 18.4 overs for 165. Well, the win was a small consolation for the visitors as India had already clinched the 5-match series by winning the first 3 matches. Both teams now move on to the 5th and final match on Saturday. It will serve as the last warm-up before the T20 World Cup begins on February 7th in India and Sri Lanka.
Britain's Queen Camilla stepped out for a special screening of Hamnet in London. The British Royal met the cast and creative team behind the acclaimed film adaptation. More in this next report. Take a look.
I'm going to go to school tomorrow. I met the Queen yesterday and everyone's like, I don't believe you. But I think it's just such a great experience, you know? I think I'm so honoured to be in her. It's true.
Well, that's all we had for you on this edition of World DNA. But don't go anywhere. More news and updates will follow on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching WION World this morning.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
A special program right here from the World Economic Forum 2026 in Davos. A special focus on how Kerala has been making its mark on the global stage.
Kerala, God's own country, is the most popular tourist destination in India. We found a lot of interest in investing in tourism as part of new wellness centers.
Kerala leads the country in several aspects. The first fully literate state of India. Now it has been transformed as the first fully digitally literate state of India.
The message from Davos is clear. Kerala is ready to engage with the world and play a bigger role in the global economic story.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. Iran has warned its forces have their fingers on a trigger to respond forcefully to any US military operation. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also signaled the country is open to a new nuclear deal after US President Donald Trump warned Iran to make one or next attack will be far worse. Meanwhile, during a Senate hearing, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said the future of Iran after Supreme Leader Khamenei seems uncertain.